I think Chris was going to start with that, and he just popped in here, so.
I'm sorry, who was going to start presenting first?
I think Chris Norwalk was planning to present for the daycare, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, this is Hal Sachs. I have the documents open so I can present my screen and we can all talk about it together.
And Chris is muted. Chris, you're muted.
Okay, Hal, I think you should be able to present now. I'm going to share your screen.
All right, let's make sure we can get Chris's.
Mr. Nowak, there should be a mute button at like the bottom of your window.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
God bless America.
All right, so
It's a wonderful place.
let's just make sure everyone from the development team is here, correct?
We are.
Okay, and Nick, have we gone through? We have a quorum. Everyone is here.
We're missing Mr. Lovett, but I got an email from him. He's without power at the moment, so he's trying to get restarted here.
Fred, do you want to wait a couple more minutes or do you want to get started?
Looks like we have a quorum, if I'm counting correctly, so I say we get started.
Okay. Melissa, do you want to go ahead and start recording and then Fred can kick us off?
Sure.
You're good to go.
Thank you. Welcome to the Design Advisory Panel presentation for this evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have two projects this evening. Our first project is the Maple Lawn Montessori School in Elkridge. And I'm not sure if the presenters have presented to us before, so I'll give you the lay of the land real quick. We'll introduce ourselves, ask that you introduce your team and try to keep your presentation to 15 minutes or less. And then we'll wait to the end to ask questions, and then if there's any motions to be made, we'll make those motions. And in between there, planning and zoning will also have a short presentation to tell us what they'd like us to take a look at on the project. So having said all that, I'm Fred Marino, and I am an architect. Let's go over to how about Larry?
Okay. Hi, good evening. I'm Larry Quarrick, and I'm a landscape architect.
Bob?
I'm Bob Gorman. I'm a landscape architect planner.
Ethan? Ethan, you're on mute. Ethan? Can you introduce yourself? Apparently your audio is not coming through. Okay. We'll come back to Ethan. Sujit.
Hi, this is Sujit Mishra. I'm architect.
And did Dan join or not yet? No, not yet. Okay. Oh, Vivian's with us. Vivian, could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. I am Vivian Stone, and I am an architect as well.
Okay, back to Ethan. Are you able to get on, Ethan? I see you're texting, it looks like. I'm not sure if you're having audio issues. Okay, well, Ethan Marchant is also an architect. There he is. Okay, so we have a good group to see. There he is. We got you, Ethan. All right, so it's over to you and your team. I'm not sure who's leading the charge from the Maple Lawn Montessori to make the presentation, but please, as I said, try to keep it to 15 minutes and we can be efficient with our time, and then at the end, we'll ask you all some questions. Take it away. Please introduce yourselves first.
All right, Anil, introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, my name is Anil, and I'm actually the owner of Maple Lawn Montessori. I'm the one who's planning to build the school.
Hal?
Yeah, my name is Hal Sachs. I'm one of the architects that has worked on this project. is a joint venture between L2M Architects and Ammon Heisler Sachs Architects.
Alice?
I'm Alice Miller. I'm with Benchmark Engineering, and we're doing the civil site design.
And I'm Chris Nowalk with Goldleaf Associates, working to coordinate the team project management.
Okay, so up on the screen right now is an overlay of a civil site plan with the location of the proposed building, parking layout. One thing to note about the site is that the site is a relatively difficult site with a significant slope and on the sheet from left to right. So we've created somewhat of a table for the building to sit on. There is retaining wall to the left side of the building, which will allow us to flatten out and lower a play area for the kids that will be attending this school. And then there's another retaining wall to the right of the parking area, which will help us level out the parking area. And then there's a drop off down into the area to the right of the parking lot, which is designated for stormwater management. And I believe there's an easement in there that we can't do any type of development in there other than enhance the plantings and controls for that stormwater management area. Alice, if I'm saying anything incorrect, please correct me. So go ahead.
Only that the biggest constraint down here at the bottom is the environmental buffers. So that's basically why we're constrained from developing about a third of the site.
So, and with this site, there obviously be plantings that were required, and all the plantings would be native plantings and provide some color to the site in both fall and summer. And then retaining wall, obviously, we would like any thoughts from the panel about the appropriate retaining wall. Obviously, we want to be considerate of development costs and retaining walls, because everybody knows that retaining walls are rather expensive, but we will need to have 2 retaining walls on the site.
Kyle, if I could jump in for a minute, those walls those retaining walls they want 1 to 3 feet. If there's 1 or 2 that get a little bit above 36 inches, but for the most part, they're probably 24 inches or less. We've done a pretty good job of creating a table at the right elevation to minimize those walls, except for a few areas specific by the dumpster enclosure in the upper left-hand corner, and again at about 2 o'clock off the parking lot to the right side. It's a little bit steep there, but other than that, the walls are 24 to 30 inches, no more than 36.
Yeah, and I believe if we keep the retaining walls below 48 inches, we would not be required to have a retaining wall permit. Any questions on this site plan?
In the interest of time, maybe if you all just keep going through your presentation,
Sure.
and we'll reserve our questions to the end. Otherwise, we'll be here a lot longer.
Okay. This is a aerial visual of the site and surrounding buildings. As you can see, we have a fueling station south of our site. We have a retail strip center to the right, one directly small retail center right in front of our building. The entrance off of Route 1, we'd be entering the site from the divided driveway. And then we have various types of industrial buildings north of our site. And there's also on the other plan, there's an ice cream pre-engineered metal building catty corner to our site. And then we can talk about the design a little bit. We can talk about the building a little bit, but this is early concept and making it colorful and playful for the kids. And we've come up with several schemes, and this was considered the tree scheme, where we'd have green colors up above with some tan corners and columns between. We felt that the design was appropriate and practical and pleasing, and it fits in with the context of the other buildings in the area. It also helps a little bit of a transition from some of the really bigger industrial buildings down to some of the smaller retail buildings. This is on Roosevelt, so it's not on Route 1. We're actually a block off of Route 1, but still being considerate to the Route 1 design initiative with varying footprint, the facade coming in and out, and different heights. We've also raised the element at the entrance area on Roosevelt and tried to make something that was noticeable, but not something that's iconic, sticking out and being an icon to itself. We've added a lot of fenestration to the building, which will help with daylighting in the classrooms. And I believe we also have a image of a fence style that we were thinking, instead of doing a closed fence, it'd be an open fence so you can see the play area in the back, and all the green area would not be obstructed by a solid fence. The building was also designed so if in future this concept was no longer going to be used in this building could be used for other uses. It could be used for more retail, it could be used for small business flex, and or a larger industrial entity, but obviously not as big as the industrial uses that are behind it. So we felt that this was a relatively easy building to adapt to other uses. The colors could be easily swapped out, and whether this was done in some type of panel system or if this was done in EFIS, still it's easy to swap out the colors. So it's not representing what it's trying to do now, which is to appeal to young children and families. Chris, anything else that you would like to add?
We planned a parapet wall, so the HVAC sits behind it, so it's screened to the road. There's awnings on the building over the windows, and there'll be small awnings off the back. We accentuated, you see in the center to the right of the tower, we accentuated the entrance. And the plan is that, if I just back up, the big picture plan is to provide a facility that's equal to the programming and the facility of national and regional daycare providers, but at a more cost-effective price, because we know the business model is we're trying to help those families that can't afford the very expensive type schools, but still want to give their children that opportunity. And Anil's plan is to hit that market, kind of create the value, kind of the Planet Fitness model, if a little bit similar to that concept, where they give you everything a big gym has, but at a better price. And that's our plan here. That's about all I can say at the top.
Thanks, Chris. I believe that's the extent of our presentation, but happy to answer questions or take any constructive criticism.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Nick, so we'll, at this point, we turn it over to Department of Planning and Zoning for their presentation, which will just be a few minutes, and then the DAP will ask some questions. So, Nick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicants, I think, did a very, very good job portraying what they have proposed on this site. As you've seen, it's located at the intersection of Business Parkway and Roosevelt Drive. It does not have direct frontage along one, but does fall within DAP's purview area and is subject to the Route 1 manual and guidelines for review. As the site exists today, for the most part, it's existing vegetated. It does have a slope if you're looking at the plan view from left to right, which would be sloping downhill to the northeast. There are a good deal, of environmental features located on site. There is stream that cuts through the top, the northern corner, and enters a pipe that runs under Business Parkway. There are wetlands associated with that, and they're doing a fairly good job of staying out of those environmentally sensitive areas. The project Zone CECLI, which is continuing light industrial and corridor employment, which this use is supported under that zoning, so they're in good shape there. Department of Planning and Zoning, we'd like to ask the panel if you guys would please make some recommendations on the site layout, maybe the edge transmissions and perimeter of the site. Is there anything that you would suggest they incorporate into their design as they move forward? If you could also maybe make some recommendations and comments on the architecture, their proposed palette design of the structure itself, how it's, if its orientation fits, maybe in the best way to the site and to the surrounding uses. And then any maybe recommendations for any other amenities or maybe add-ons and landscaping that they would maybe want to consider as they move forward with their design.
Okay. Thanks, Nick.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so at this point, the DAP will ask questions. I'm going to start out with, how about Bob, from your perspective, any thoughts, questions?
Okay, this is Bob Gorman. I really like your approach to the building by making it flexible for future uses, and I think it's appropriate what you've done for the kids and all of that. Just a couple of questions. The landscape plan seems a little light. I know you're probably meeting the requirements, but how many employees do you have here, and how do parents deal with dropping their kids off? Do they park and walk them into school?
Neil, could you answer that?
Yes, we are absolutely. We are actually estimating around 10 to 12 employees in the school, and the parents will be dropping off the kids. So they will be driving into the parking lot, and the parents will come inside the building to drop off the kids, and the teachers will hand over the kids. And so they typically do that in the morning, and some parents come in the morning, some parents try to pick up their kids, like if they only want half day. So they pick them up around 12 or 1 before lunch, and some parents come around 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock after work, and they pick up kids.
So are you at the bare minimum of your parking requirements?
We meet code requirement for parking.
Yes.
Sir.
It just seems to me that it would be nice if we could get some tree islands in there to, take some of the curse off that parking lot.
We're at bare minimum. We're really restricted by the easements, the wetlands that come through that third of the site there, and we meet code. I don't think we have a space to spare. I mean, there could be on-street parking potentially because we're going to widen the road a little bit, but right now we're pretty.
Yeah, I can see that easement is really tight on there. It just seems. Maybe along the edges of the parking lot or something, you could do some more taller street trees. My two other comments. One is it looks like you have crepe myrtle and arborvitae in the wetlands pond. I think it would be better, and I'm going to let Larry Quarrick speak to this because he's really good at it. Different kinds of plantings, native plantings you could do in there. They just don't seem appropriate for a wetland planting. And then my other comment is, with this terrific site you have on the other half, is there any way to put some kind of a wood chip pathway or something so that the kids can go out and walk a trail through that woods and get a little exposure to nice woodlands. And maybe that's totally out of the question with your program, but it just seems like an opportunity missed.
If I could speak to the first question, those trees are actually up at the top of the pond, not in the pond. There'll be a whole separate list of wetlands plantings that'll go down into the pond.
Okay.
This might be able to embellish on that. And then to your second question, we can't go in. You see that cloud at the bottom of the pond? You see the cloud that comes across right and hits the edge of our parking lot in that L corner there. We
Yeah.
can't go in there at all and do anything to even to put a path in.
That's too bad.
Yeah, Army Corps of Engineer.
I used to be in the Army Corps of Engineers.
You know we can.
I understand.
Can we say Bob said we can?
That's all I have, Fred.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Vivian, how about over to you? I think you're on, there you are.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is a daycare, not a Montessori elementary school, right? It's just branded Montessori. I guess that's one question. Is it?
What was the?
Go ahead, Neil.
I'm sorry. What was the question?
Is this like a preschool?
Yes, it is. This is a preschool. So
Okay.
it goes from 0. Yeah, we actually take kids obviously from 3 months to 5 years. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I went to a Montessori preschool, but I guess this is I'm just, it's been a while since I went to that school, so I can't remember if they had a daycare with it. But anyway, just trying to wrap my head around that. And the shared uses, so where is this whole building going to be occupied by? What portion of the building will be occupied by the daycare or the Montessori school?
The whole building is going to be daycare.
Okay, I thought Hal had said something about shared use.
No, not shared, but in the future, if
this moves out.
Yes.
Yeah, if this would move out, we would be able to use it for other uses.
I gotcha. Okay. So, no, I like the architecture. I think it's a vast improvement from the buildings that are around it. And I understand, you're using the kind of materials that are in the area, the ethos and the little upgrade with the fiber cement board. And I really was happy to see your tree scheme. It's a vast improvement over whatever was submitted before. I like the playfulness of it. I'm just wondering, yeah, that it's so bright and cheerful. And I love the colors and the play and the different fiber cement panel. My only question would be on the back that faces, I guess not the parking lot area, but the back. Is that meant to be, right now it's just shown as a green space? Is that meant to be kind of outdoor play area for the kids? Like eventually would you have like a tot lot or a playground or?
That's
Yes.
correct.
The area
Okay.
that I'm pointing to would all be the playground area, and it's obviously contained just to protect the children.
Okay. So I'm just wondering, as you develop it further, what kinds of shading devices and so forth you would have. I know that, I don't know if you want to put anything on the building or, some playground equipment has its own, they have their own kind of shading little umbrellas and things, but, that would definitely be important in the development of the scheme. This facade also it's pretty blank. The two areas where the classrooms are, where you can kind of see the storefront and the awnings, that's pretty developed. But then there's as you're looking at the elevation, the right side of the building is pretty austere. So I'm just wondering if there's any way you could play around with that elevation a little bit to brighten it up. I realize there's probably no windows in the program, and that's why you don't have a lot of articulation of the facade, but maybe you could do something with EVIS panels or something akin to what you did on the front, just to liven it up a little.
Okay.
But in general, I think you've done a nice job. It's looks like you know, and I do appreciate the color and the use of materials. I really like the entry area, how you did that and recessed that. That's really a nice move there. So that's really all I had.
Yeah, thanks, Vivian. Ethan?
Yeah, I agree with all the panelists. I think you've done a very successful job in laying out the building and the site. I have two comments. One question really in regards to the trash enclosure, dumpster enclosure that seems to be off of the play area. Is that, and it doesn't sound by the description that it's access from the road to Plan West. How does that function?
If I may, it actually does get, that's a shared access road to the distribution building behind us, and we have rights to that. So we actually put the dumpster off on there. That way that truck traffic will not come up into our parking lot. It just seemed to function better. The truck can flow through, right through the back of that warehouse and out on the Business Parkway at the top of the page, you know, off the page. So it really, that was a good flow for us. And there's a side door. You see right where the hand is, there's a side door that the staff can take trash out and up to that dumpster enclosure.
Okay, great. That's a great solution. But my other comment is kind of piggybacking off of Bob's suggestion or request about finding ways to engage the unique attributes you have with this site, which is the wooded area. And how that can become a component in child's play. And I'm wondering if you looked at all about just taking this exact plan and mirroring it to put the playground on the open space rather than sandwiching it between a building and a retaining wall / street.
We actually started with that plan, and it's they're modules. There's 3 modules there. There's a play area, there's a building, there's a parking lot. So you could shuffle them in any direction. They kind of all fit in there. But we realized that the predominant traffic is going to come from Route 1 up Business Parkway because of the signalized entrance and the safety of it. We believe a lot of traffic's going to come from the Route 100 corridor from Mayfield off 103, and we thought the front door, when you turn the corner, you should see the front door to the facility. What you want to see, you want to see that door, and that by flip-flopping it, it would put the parking lot and the front door behind the building, and we just didn't feel it would do justice to the business.
And I understand that thinking. I would posit that that's more of a retailing theory for a building. I think this is a destination building. I think people are coming to this place to bring their kids there. They're not happen to drive by and find it. It's tucked away, kind of out of the way. And as a parent myself, I would be more engaged in a daycare center that really capitalized on the outdoor play area, more so than the idea of finding the front door. I think that would be a bigger draw and be more appealing to prospective customers than being able to find the front door of the building.
Yes, so what we did is we actually, keeping that in mind, so the corner of the building, we created a very nice indoor play area, some kind of a mini sky zone kind of thing inside the building. So we actually gave away almost 2,000, 3,000 square foot space. I would say around 2,500 to create that nice play area inside the building and also for outside. So keeping those 2 things in mind, because obviously kids really want to come to school, and obviously they definitely love the outdoors and the indoors, and then so that's what we had in mind when we designed this.
How could you go to the elevation for a minute and we could further explain what Anil just spoke of? So what Anil was trying to explain, under the tower, under the sign, that end of the building is 2 big rooms that can become multi-purpose rooms for different reasons. There'll be a demountable partition in there, and with the big windows, there'll be a big gym set in there, and it'll be just colorful. When you pull up to the building, you'll see into this great room and just add excitement to to the children's experience when they show up. So that was part of what Neil was trying to describe to you. That end of the building is a big multi-purpose room that's split in half, but can be opened up into one big room. You know, rainy week, you got to have the kids play somewhere. They can come inside to that room.
I understand. I think you have an opportunity on this site, being something unique that is perhaps not being maximized, which is the outdoor landscape. I know this isn't, you know, that's probably a little bit outside of our purview to tell you this. You check all the boxes, but I think it would be great to harvest off that unique opportunity that you have. I don't think it's doing that now.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else, Ethan?
That's all I had, those two things.
Okay. Sujit, let's go over to you.
Yeah, I think I agree with my colleague comments. Overall, the design composition looks good. Are those fiber cement panels? What kind of material are you using? Is that all stucco or EFIS?
We're going to, again, we're a little cost sensitive, especially in this current market where construction has gone out the window. But we have a combination of EIFS and panels that, you know, some of the corner towers, those two towers, they probably become an EIFS product, but the panels up under the, up above the awnings may in fact be that fiber board you're talking about, or there's another product out there, what's it, Niche panels?
Yeah.
Niji,
Something
yeah.
like that. But we have to, so it's a combination. And then the bottom could either be a ground face CMU unit potentially, or again, there's a different type of EIFS out there that's got a stone in it, that would create that hard surface at the bottom for the, you know, for the foundation wall around the building.
Okay, I mean, all those are good material. One comment I have is regarding the awning. Have you tried awning versus louver? Or like a louver is more kind of permanent, maintenance free. And you can try actually both. You can have a louver in that tower and a awning on the side, you know, some kind of mix it up. So that's the only comment I had when I looked at this 3D elevation. Because right now it's kind of the same thing carrying, but looks like the tower probably needs little bit different than the rest of the building. And that's how your design is. So that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Sujit. I think Larry, you're last other than me.
Okay. Yeah, so if you could go back to the site plan with the landscape, since I'm a landscape architect, that's what I was focusing on. Yeah, so I mean, I do like the building facade, and you had mentioned that it's you know, a little more whimsical and kind of a tree theme because of the greens and stuff. But I do wish you would then express that type of feature throughout the site with the trees. Bob Gorman had talked about, you know, the possibility of some of those spaces being islands that would have trees. I understand that that's real tight with your parking, but on the right side, like between the infiltration, the bioretention area, and then I guess you have a wall there. I don't know what the slope is after the wall. Is the wall 4 feet high, you said, or some 4 feet?
It's less than that, majority of it. There's a couple spots that creep up above 3 feet, 42 inches, but
okay,
much of that wall is 24 inches.
Okay, and then I'm assuming the slope might be like a 3-to-1 slope or something. I'm sure it's, you know, something that's, you know, stable. So tree plantings will work on a 3-to-1 slope just fine. I mean, lining that the base of that wall with you know, kind of street tree type thing, like say a river birch, or you know, they like a little bit wetter soils, but you could still get that feel of a parking lot lined with trees there, even though you wouldn't be losing any of the spaces. So I think that would be a really nice way to kind of accentuate the building facade and kind of reinforce that idea of tree that you had mentioned in your initial comments. The other thing with the parking lot, I mean, I don't know how many staff are there, and I don't know the timing. We did have a similar type plan on Route 1 in terms of people, parents dropping off their children. It looks to be like a tough area. If this is happening all at once, I could see the parking lot being full at times, and if someone's coming in, they really have no way out of that parking lot. If you get to the end, even that last space there looks like it would have a tough time pulling out because the parking lot is truncated there. So I don't know how the others feel, you know, on the panel here, but it seems like it's going to be a pretty tough area. There's no logical circulation in the parking lot. And if you happen to be back there and all those spaces are full, you're literally going to have to back out in order to, you know, get out of there, or hopefully there's a space available where you can back into it and then reverse yourself.
Yeah, Larry, I agree that those last couple of spots, frankly, they don't work. There's no ability to back out of there and get out of there. So that needs to be looked at.
And worse than that, if someone, even if you're not parked there and you get back in there, then what do? You're dead ended, and it's going to be a tough situation.
Yep. You need a little spot there to back into.
Right. And then I look at your landscape palette. I mean, it's there. I have nothing against red maples. It's a native tree. The rest of the panel knows that I'm on the Chesapeake Landscape Council, or Conservation Landscape Council, and we're promoting the use of native trees where possible and shrubs. And that's not to mean that every shrub and tree has to be native, but when given a choice that, you know, on a certain tree, the river birch is native, the red maple, the crepe myrtle is not. I'm not against using it, but you are using, I think, 15 crepe myrtles. That's the most of any tree there. So I would say look at that to see whether you might be able to interject some native trees like an eastern redbud or serviceberry that would still give you color in the springtime and still be an interesting tree. The crepe myrtle would then be reduced in number, but you'd have some summer color there. So that's what I'm suggesting there, that you look at that plant palette in terms of trees and maybe look to see where you can get some more native trees in there to you know, help our watershed as well as you know, provide the seasonal interest. The emerald green arborvitae, I like the plant. The picture you show is how it's typically used when it's several of them in the row, because they're usually planted 3 feet apart to get an evergreen screen. But you're using them more as single elements between what I think is the red maple, or it could possibly be the crepe myrtle up there. I can't. It was hard for me to tell even when I had the ability to enlarge the screen. So the bottom line is the emerald green arborvitae is, they're kind of just these elements in space. I'm not sure what they're supposed to be providing in terms of color and seasonal interest there. They're very narrow and tall, and they're also planted between major shade trees. They definitely need sun in order to do well. They'll do well initially, but as the maples get bigger, they're going to shade those out, and then they'll just kind of drop off the radar screen. So you may want to look at that emerald green arborvitae to see really why are you planting it there, and what are you trying to accomplish. I agree with Bob too in the bioretention area. Well, first of all, I'm used to seeing a plant palette for that. I mean, think I'd be seeing perennials like Joe Pye weed, shrubs like winterberry, red dozier dogwood, all inkberry, things that like wet feet. So hopefully, as you get into that aspect of the plan, you'll be considering those native shrubs that do well in a wet environment. I agree with Bob. The arborvitae and the crepe myrtle are not, even if they're not in the low area of it, it doesn't seem to make sense to put those down anywhere near the pond. They're not native. They're not wetland plants, and so I would look at that carefully and definitely come up with a palette that likes wet feet, wet roots, that type of thing. And then finally, the play area. I agree with the comments. I wish the play area kind of face the wooded area and then tried to create at least a visual connection. But if you're going to keep it at that end, and going with some of the other comments regarding sun over there, hopefully the play structures will have shade cells that can give you color and give you that whimsical look. And I've also seen within enclosed play areas, you can actually specify a couple sort of narrow shade trees that break that up and give the kids a little bit of contact with nature, you know, in terms of the seasons and that. And finally, I don't see anything in sort of foundation plantings. I mean, I see a green strip there between the walkway and the front of the building, which seems to be a great place to do some foundation plantings that would be low. You have glass there, but things like Carl Forster reed grass or little blue stem, they're narrow. They kind of sway in the wind. They would look nice against the glass, or it could be just a low ground cover like Bloody Crane's Bill or something like that. That is basically gives that green area some purpose rather than just showing up as grass between the walkway. And it's also a nice area to look at these things from the inside. You can enjoy those plants through all the seasons. So those are all, you know, they're suggestions. I think the landscape plan could be so much better if just some more thought could be given to it. Extend my comments, Fred.
Thanks, Larry. Okay, I've got a few comments, questions, some of which are maybe contrary to some of what you've heard, but first question is, what's the square footage of the building?
10,000 feet.
10,000, okay. And going back to the dumpster question and the overall site layout, I believe you said you looked at every configuration you could, and I know my colleague just said it again. It seemed to me that it would have been nice if this whole thing could rotate 90 degrees clockwise. So the parking is along Roosevelt Boulevard, and then the building turns, and then the play area is facing that back wooded area. And even if that meant you had to extend the retaining wall, which frankly, as I'm sitting here staring at the screen, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't have to extend it any further than you already are with the parking where it is, to provide you with an overall better site configuration and a better playground area. And frankly, even from a retail perspective, perhaps even a better layout, because now the retail spaces face Roosevelt Boulevard instead of facing and being set back the way they are off of the road there. So you said, somebody said you all studied that?
We did. We looked at 6 or 7 options. The 62-foot wide module for parking, some sidewalks, some foundation area, planting area, the width of the building, the width of the play area actually, and then how the buffer pinches in, right? The wetlands area at the top, at 1 o'clock there. It just, that orientation of facing the parking lot to Roosevelt and then the building behind that and then the play area behind that was probably the toughest challenge, and therefore we just couldn't really make that one work.
So the wetlands would actually hit, where would the wetlands hit the corner of the building then?
The wetlands would, yeah, it would pinch the play area, and it would pinch the edge of the building. Right. I mean, a little bum line, you can kind of see that
Yeah, it's hard to see that in the site plan at the scale we're looking at, but
I'm sorry.
It seems to me that
Right
you could have made that work. That would be a much more desirable from a lot of perspectives. Because I agree with my colleagues, it's just unfortunate you're gonna have to put this play area where you're putting it. It's and the whole orientation seems wrong if at some point this is meant to be flexible and you want this to potentially be a retail center, which I frankly, when I look at the design, that's what I see. I don't even see the daycare. So it appears to me that the driver here is retail, not daycare. So anyway, for what it's worth, it would have been great if there's a way for you to figure out how to make that happen and rotate this 90 degrees clockwise. Going back to your response to Ethan's comment about the dumpster. So are there any meals prepared here for children?
No.
And so everything is prepackaged, pre-prepared, delivered,
Yes.
and then once it's disposed of, they have to go out the side door through the play area and open up the door to the dumpster to throw the trash in. Is that correct?
No, they'll go out around the play area, right? They'll go out the door through a gate and around the outside of the fence to the dumpster area.
Okay, okay.
And it's just
Well, I
like
don't
there.
don't
There's about-
see us. There's no sidewalk shown for that, so I'm not sure how you're doing that. And then how does a truck come along and supposedly pick up this dumpster? There's not even a pad in front of the dumpster as I'm seeing on the plan.
There is on a site plan, that's all concrete extended to the existing roadway. The truck comes
Okay.
in Roosevelt Boulevard, right or left, turns into that driveway, heads up the road. There's a concrete apron right out to the edge of that road.
Okay,
And pull in and pick up, and then he'll back, and then he'll go continue around, taking that left-hand turn around the warehouse.
okay. The sidewalk that runs along the edge of the parking lot between the parking lot and the building, is that really your intent? Seems to me that car bumpers, unless you're gonna put wheel stops, car bumpers are gonna be hanging over the sidewalk that potentially parents are walking down with their children and is a bit of a safety issue. Again, I can't tell at the scale and the detail. I'm assuming hopefully you'll have wheel stops or pull the sidewalk back so it's not right at the edge of the parking.
Alice, how wide do we have the sidewalk designed at right now?
I think I was just trying to zoom in on the drawing. It's 5 feet. Right now it's 5 feet.
That's too narrow if there's an overhang.
Yeah, and if you're not using wheel stops, which I'm guessing you're not.
We
it's
prefer not to for the safety. We prefer not to if we can help it. So we can make it 6 feet. We could probably look at that. Alice, we should probably figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of cars will, overhang that, curb onto the walkway by, as much as 2 feet. I mean, it's depending on the car. So you're really narrowing that walkway down, if you allow cars to encroach onto it.
Well, and you may want to consider, just a thought, if in fact at some point this does convert to retail, why not just make that whole edge, paving from the curb to the building facade and call it a day?
Yeah, especially Fred, if they would consider like permeable pavers, making it like a courtyard type pavement area rather than just concrete sidewalk. That way it looks decorative. You could still maybe have potted large ceramic pots right next to the window or whatever, and then you'd have plenty of room for walking as well as the car overhanging. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if I didn't get the thought.
No, that's fine, Larry. Yeah. And it's hard to tell on the site plan what the intent there is, but it doesn't look like it's the best approach. You've got to take a look at that.
We will.
And then, I'm sorry.
10 feet there. I think we have 10 feet, right, Alice?
I think that's correct.
Yeah, so we'll look at that for you.
Okay.
Hey, Fred, would you mind if I step in? I'm sorry, I got in late. My power was out.
You made it.
So my power went out. So, so I chimed in. Do you have a few minutes so I can?
Let me finish up. I've got one other comment, and then I'll let you jump in. Can you let me see here? Sidewalks, lighting. I don't see any ways you're addressing parking lot lighting, street lighting, those sorts of things. Granted, it might be early in the design process, and you all are perfectly aware of the Route 1 corridor design guidelines, so you can pay attention to that and make sure it's addressed on your site plan at some point. And then if you wouldn't mind going to your facade or your perspective elevation or your rendering. So 2 things. I think that given the orientation you're building, that you might want to make sure you pay some attention to, and this rendering, I can kind of see it. Pay attention to the elevation along Roosevelt Boulevard, because I think it happens to be as important as your elevation that we're seeing here. And then lastly, I know everybody thinks these colors are really playful and all of that, but I just feel like 2 things. They're very of the age, of the time, right? And they're going to be outdated before long. Yeah, it's playful, but I feel like you're hitting me over the head to say it's playful, as opposed to doing something a little bit more a little more subtle, but yet some playful elements, if that makes any sense. I just feel like there's almost too much of this particular color, and I feel like you're hitting me over the head with it. And I just feel like I understand the context from what I know from that area, and that's the other thing. It would have been nice if you showed us some photos of the context, because we all know it. We've all driven by there. There's not a lot of it, but I just think you might want to take a look at the color scheme. It just seems to be a bit much to me personally. And you can still execute playful without it being that extreme.
Duly noted.
Okay, I'm done. Dan, it's over to you.
I just wanted to say that I think that's what I like about it, is that it is so different, because it's just I don't know, when I look at the context, I just don't think there's much inspiration there.
There isn't.
And it would be really depressing to drop your kids off at one of these buildings.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing. I feel like it's more retail-y than anything, but
I agree, it is very retail-y, but I guess that's kind of the context, right? And if they want to make it a flexible use, that, you know, kind of working with what you got.
Yep. Dan?
Yeah, you guys, this is Dan Lovett, civil engineer with the Army Corps of Engineers. A couple of things. I come in a little late in here, so I didn't get to see anything, but I didn't see any crosswalks, whether the sidewalk that goes across the entrance there or where it cuts across on Roosevelt. You've got a ramp going down to the road, but there's no crosswalk. So they just kind of dead end, don't go anywhere. But I would definitely like to see a crosswalk, at least in front of the entrance of the parking lot.
Okay.
And what they were making comments about those last 2 parking spots. If you guys still need the parking spots, just make them 2 hours in the morning, say no parking here, or 2 hours in the afternoon, when you get those rush in early in the morning and then late in the evening, just say nobody can park there so people can use that to help turn around. But you don't lose the actual parking spots.
Okay.
That's an idea.
That's an idea. I like that.
And what was the enclosure thought was going to be around this dumpster here? Because it's not clear from the plan I'm looking at what's going on, how is it going to be covered up, especially when you got it right next to the playground. Then also how it looks like it needs to have at least 2 or 3 inches, because one needs for people to get in, right, to dump their trash, and then you also need the truck to come in here and get it too. So I just want to know what the enclosure is going to be and how we're going to hide that, not only from the road, but also to the playground. Does that make sense?
Sure. We envisioned a 6-foot-high board-on-board fence around that with a board-on-board gate, 2 swing gates for truck access in the front. We certainly typically, many times people use one of the 2 truck gates to get into the front of it, but we could certainly add a pedestrian gate to the backside, because that's actually the approach employees will be taking coming out of the building. They'll be coming to the backside. We could add a pedestrian gate to the backside. That could work.
Okay, and also just make sure when they come and go get that dumpster, they like to widen out both of the doors. And I see, depending on how it's oriented, it may hit the fence of the playground. So just keep that in mind, okay?
Yeah, we might put a bollard in there. I hear you. Something to catch the gate. Yes, sir.
Okay. I think that's all I have.
Thanks, Dan. Well, that concludes our questions and comments. Would anybody from the DAP like to make any motions?
Yeah, this is Larry Clark. I'd like to make 2 motions, actually. The one is specifically dealing with the landscape plan. I'd like to make the motion that the applicant consider adding a couple small trees to the play area. I'd like to this is the same motion. Point two, consider adding shade trees at the base of the retaining wall along the parking lot. The third point is consider increasing the amount of native trees in relation to the total a number of trees and shrubs specified. And then 4 is develop a specific plant list for wetland plantings, especially around and near the bio retention area. And then that's the first motion. So.
Okay, anybody want a
I'll
second?
second that.
Bob second. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Any other motions?
Yes, the second motion, again, Larry Quarik, that the applicant consider looking at the parking lot layout, especially the terminus of the parking lot as to how cars will turn around there. And that may include looking at signage that keeps those spaces open during rush times. And also at the edge of the parking lot, the walkway that is between the parking lot and the building, that be looked at in terms of width, as well as whether it might just be a paved area that is decorative in nature between the parking lot and the building.
Second.
Second.
Who was that?
I did. Dan Lovett.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anybody else motions? No? Doesn't sound.
Yeah, I would prefer them to put in the crosswalk there at the driveway, at the entrance to the parking lot.
You want to make a motion, Dan?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for that crosswalk to be added. So did we cover the widening of the concrete for the sidewalk or add the stop bars in the parking lot so we don't get that overhang?
Yeah, I think that's what Larry suggested, was that they took a look at the width of that up to the building.
Can we do a revote of the crosswalk to be added at the drive entrance? Because I'm not sure that we got a vote on that.
Yeah, Bob Gorman seconded, and all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I don't, anybody else have a motion to make? No? Okay. I guess that's it. Thank you all for presenting.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for feedback.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, so we actually on the agenda this evening have a second project to review. And I don't know if the applicant is here or not, but
Fred, they that applicant canceled. They initially thought that they were going to be available for tonight.
Okay.
But they have since followed up with us and were not able to attend. So they are going to be pushed, and we have them tentatively scheduled for the July 21st meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Good enough.
Anthony,
Yes.
and I wanted to comment on that one. There wasn't, unless it's changed, there wasn't much of a landscape plan to even address on that one, unless something new has come in that I haven't looked at. I mean, I didn't really see a landscape plan. Bob, agree?
We had requested modifications be made, and I mean, we weren't getting a lot of the materials at the levels that we were requesting for you guys. So because they're being pushed back to the 21st, as Anthony mentioned, I'm gonna make that request again to see if we can get some additional materials and some fine tuning and revisions done to the plan for you guys. So.
Okay.
They may very well have been working on them to bring to the meeting. We're just not sure, but we can see if we can get them in advance now that we have some time.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank
Okay.
you
Is there
for coming.
any other business for this evening?
Just that I think the July 7th meeting is canceled because we don't have projects on that day. And so the next one should be the 21st as we know it. I did have one slight update, somewhat of an update, is that because of the technical requirements needed to sort of modify some of our existing meeting spaces, the DAP at this point is going to continue going virtually until such time where either there are rooms available or some other outside factor changes. So for the time being, since we don't have public testimony as part of our meetings, rather than trying to schedule and fight for spaces that do have the technology, Amy has agreed to allow DAP to continue virtually. So just so you know.
That breaks my heart. I can sit here and eat my dessert.
Yeah, me
Don't
too,
get too
Bob.
comfy. So
All
we'll
right,
keep you
drink your
posted on
dessert,
any of
whatever,
those.
Fred.
I'll keep you posted on any of those developments, but for the time being, we're going to remain virtual.
Okay. All right, well, if there's nothing else, I guess we can call we can adjourn unless anybody else has anything. No?
Thanks,
No.
guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a
See you in
good
a couple
evening.
weeks.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.